Welcome to Research Renaissance, presented by the Karen Toffler Charitable Trust. Embark on a journey into the forefront of cutting-edge brain science as we feature insightful discussions with a diverse array of guests, from early career researchers pioneering groundbreaking science to influential voices in investment communities, policymaking, and research institutions. Together, we delve into neurological diseases, their causes, treatments, and the quest for cures. Join us in advancing our understanding of the brain and addressing its ailments. Welcome to Research Renaissance. I'm Deborah Westphal, your host and guide through the fascinating future of the brain. Joining me today is Ian Kahn, a theoretical futurist helping organizations achieve future readiness. Ian is also the host of The Futurist, a series on Amazon Prime, CNN, BBC, and Bloomberg. Today, we will be discussing the future of technology and its impact on healthcare and brain science. So let's dive in. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to get your perspectives on this, but I want to start with just what is a theoretical futurist and what are the skills needed to be one?
So a futurist is a broad term that can categorize people who have foresight. They use different skills, different tools to create that foresight about a specific business area. It could be economics, it could be technology, it could be the future of how we live. So there's many different angles to that. With a theoretical futurist, I have developed a certain theory, a theory of future readiness that I have created based on a specific algorithm that can help organizations understand how future ready they are. So I'm not everything. I cannot do everything within the foresight field. But what I can do is I can categorize companies into a specific band when it comes to future readiness. And it is based on a theory that I have created, hence making me into a theoretical futurist. I believe every futurist has a very specific skill set, and they have done that after years of either working in industry, training, learning, or what have you. And it's really a collection of different skills that makes somebody a futurist.
I'm really curious, the companies that you work with, are they mostly future ready or are they still just kind of behind and getting caught up to today?
So it's interesting to see that all the companies that we've studied until now have kind of fallen into a rough zone of between 67 to 72%. Like that's kind of the golden zone right now based on all the companies that we've studied. There's a bit of bias there. There's a bit of, a bit of, you got to take it with a bit of salt because the results are not absolute. Like there's many questions in the future readiness assessment. And depending on the person who's answering them, they might have a certain bias or knowledge or the lack of, and they've provided us with the assessment and the answers. But if you get a lot more people within an organization do the future readiness assessment, the scores are then much more accurate. So I would say that a majority of companies that we've studied are large companies, medium or large size companies, and they're doing great. They're working on so many different things from profitability to stakeholder management to sustainability issues and so on. And that 67 to 72% is a good spot to be in. And every company should strive to be in a better spot and increase that score. The score is also something that it's not something you do once and then you forget it. You have to do it every year, every few months across the board and figure out where your organization is. How have you improved? What areas need improvement and so on? So it's an ongoing effort to create an organization that's disruption proof, ready for the future, not just future proof, but really moving with the change as it comes to them through so many different things that are happening.
So could you share a few moments on this series that you have, the Futurist series? It sounds very interesting. What made you do this, and tell us about it?
Of course. So the series, The Futurist, is an episodic series that's primarily on Amazon Prime and is also available to other partners such as Emirates Airlines and others that are, taking it, putting it up there for their viewers to watch. the Futurist series came up, about as a result of me wanting to tell stories of change, progress, technology implementation, and understanding what is happening in the world, primarily business. And how can we tell stories from one region of the world, one industry to the other, and so on, so that everybody's influenced by the positive things that are happening across the board? Well, I started the journey by making documentary films about 5-7 years ago. We did a bunch of them, but then there's this need to do more. So I looked back and said, are we going to continue doing documentaries? The answer was yes, we will continue to do them. But there was also a need for us to put out something more episodic that had more of a life, and that's how the Futurist, the series, came about. The series now is, a number of episodes all around emerging technologies such as cognitive cities, the food revolution, healthcare revolution, virtual reality, cognitive cities. Like these are some of the episodes that are coming up. And we've also kind of created two new sub-series that viewers will be able to watch and enjoy. One on AI called the AI Revolution, and another on sustainability called the Sustainable Future. And there's a huge appetite for informative content from, everybody out there who's watching something to be able to know more. And for me as a storyteller or someone who wants to share what's going on, I find the visual video platform very useful and very easy to work with. And it's very easy to do the storytelling right there.
And I know you've written many books kind of focused on technology and trying to kind of simplify the emerging technology and what does this mean. You've written books on blockchain, AI, cyber. That's given you a real kind of background and foundation of technology. Can you just expand a little bit more on the books that you've written?
I have written some really bad books back in the day, and I wouldn't even talk about them. But really, my journey to start writing books was also this need inside of me to be able to share ideas and cross pollinate those ideas from one audience member to the other. And I was looking for a medium to share that on. And books are amazing. I read a lot, and hence I love books as a medium, although we are now transitioning to online content and so on and so forth. Books still have a place, if you ask me honestly. In the last few years, I have written The Metaverse for Dummies, which is a debunker on what the metaverse is, what virtual reality is, how does it work, what do these platforms do. And while some people may believe the metaverse is gone, it's over, the underlying technologies are still there. Virtual reality is still there, extended reality is still there, but the markets are perhaps not ready for what it stands for. A lot of big companies are standing behind this whole virtual revolution world, and I think it's going to come back in many different ways. And so we'll see what happens. So that's the metaverse for dummies. I just also wrote a few months ago the Quick Guide to Prompt Engineering, and that was really wanting to be able to share something about generative AI with readers worldwide. And generative AI is very confusing for many, including myself. It doesn't make sense. We don't know what's happening. And so that's an attempt for me to help understand the top 15, 20 different generative AI platforms. What do they do? Who's using them? Why are we using them? What should we do with them? And how do you get started in the early beginning steps of using, Midjourney or Chat GPT or one of these platforms? So it's a reference that you can look at and maybe try to read. I have a book in the works right now called Undisrupted, and that's also with Wiley Publishing. And this book is about companies that have remained undisrupted, leaders who have always pushed and been successful in whatever was given to them. They have adapted to change. They have been resilient. And so this book is kind of the other side of future readiness. It is about, how did these companies become future ready? What makes them undisruptible? How can we look at these companies and be inspired at the work they've done? And so it's all of that put together in a book called Undisrupted. And it's going to be out, I think, in January or February next year. It has a close connection with the future readiness score, which we talked about earlier, and a really great read, in my opinion, to help understand disruption generally, going back thousands of years to understand how does disruption always find its way into our lives, into the human civilization. Where is it right now, and where is it headed? So yeah, that's what's happening right now. I have a couple of other book projects in the works, and I want to do one that's about the power of storytelling and how brands can leverage the power of multimedia to establish themselves and to share stories that can change the world. So that's coming up as well. Yeah, for now.
You're very busy, and I appreciate you going through all that, because it really lays a great foundation for the discussion we're going to have about technology and healthcare. And let's just kind of jump into the healthcare and AI, since you've talked about this on your Futurist series and in the focus on AI. But how do you really envision AI transforming healthcare and healthcare research, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think healthcare is one of these fields that touches everybody's lives. No matter who it is, where they live on the planet, healthcare is associated with a person, a human being on the planet. Are we all healthy across the world? Is everybody getting the food they need? Is everybody getting the nutrients and supplements they need? I don't think so. Well, are we also healthy? Are we overeating? Yes, many people are overeating, right? Many societies are overeating or are malnutrition. So there's all these things happening. On the another side, despite the fact whether you're eating enough or not eating, there's the prevalence of disease, there's the prevalence of conditions, chronic, genetic, all these things are happening to us in the healthcare front, more than I can talk about in this session right now. The question becomes, are we doing everything we can with the tools we have, with the science that we have, to ensure that the human race and the people we serve and live with, our families, friends, whoever it is, are we all doing whatever we can? The answer is yeah, we're doing everything we can, and we need to do more. And that's why there is the prevalence of disease. That's why we're eating medicines, or we're eating all these different things we need to eat. So basically, we have a problem that we need to establish, that we have to do more. Now, we can do a lot manually, right? Human beings and doctors and specialists do a lot of work manually. They'll read a CT scan, they'll look at blood reports. But when the volume of all this becomes so big that it is impossible for people to go through 1 million healthcare records and find out what is a trend between people living in a specific geographical location and blood disorders, as an example, or find what is going on with specific cases and people in specific regions, age groups, and so on. It's impossible to do it. We cannot. And so it'll be a very painful, time consuming process to go through all this data, all this information. How do we accelerate that process? And how do we make it so that we can have more analysis faster? We can come to a conclusion faster. We can do drug discovery faster, and we can create cures faster, and we can have solutions for these problems. And the answer to that is artificial intelligence can help you do that. It's not a magic elixir. It's not a magic potion that somebody's going to take and everything will get accelerated. Or AI, amongst many other technologies, and many technologies are required for AI to work, is hence needed, and a great solution to accelerate and amplify this challenging need that we have to be faster, right? Why can't cloud computing do this? Why can't we just say, hey, we have cloud computing, let it just do it? Well, cloud computing is a big part of artificial intelligence in many ways, and it is needed as an element to make this whole AI thing work. What about faster microprocessors? Great question. We have the new Blackwell microprocessor by NVIDIA, and other companies are working on fast, amazingly fast hardware technology. It cannot, however, work on its own. But when you have AI, it needs this hardware, these fast microprocessors to do the job fast and to churn out results that then we can implement. So you see, everything is connected, and it's not just one thing. It's not just AI that's going to change everything, but this collection of technologies that humanity has been building over the last 4, 5, 6 decades, and specifically digital technologies that can now help us accelerate and amplify research and then implement that into action. Now, when we talk about the next 5 to 10 years, I really feel, given where we are, and we can refer to Gartner Magic Quadrants, and we can refer to all of different charts and graphs and research that is out there. What will happen in the next 5 to 10 years is dramatically more than what has happened in the last 20 years, right? And many people are talking about this, but truly is, because today, as of 2024, we have created many things that now, in the words of great Alvin Toffler, have this multiplier effect. Technology feeds on itself. And Alvin Toffler said that back in the day, in the 50s, and you would know better. That is what's happening. This cascade of technology multiplying is at such a nice place right now that now we can have AI that can be applied to drug discovery. And I have a company that I recently worked with, and you can find cures to diseases. You can eliminate the bad drug choices. You can do so much more. And so I'm totally looking forward to the next 5 and 10 years, and looking forward to seeing what diseases will be obsolete, what diseases will no longer happen, because now AI has created these healthcare solutions, and whether it's drugs or what have you, that can change our fate overall and create longevity, create healthy people, and healthy human beings all over the world.
So are organizations keeping up with this technology in a future readiness kind of perspective? Because it seems to me that there needs to be some change of attitude, maybe cultural changes, maybe some process changes inside the organizations, whether that's a government organization or whether that's a commercial organization, to ensure that the technology does accelerate up some of this discovery.
It really depends. I mean, there's a lot of complexity behind technology implementation in an average organization today. First of all, let's say it's an organization that has a product or a solution. They've got to look at stakeholder profitability, shareholder profitability, and so on. Let's say everything is good. Then comes, what is our future looking like? Are we going to continue making this widget, this solution that we are making today, or should we invest in technology? Now you have companies that are doing incredible work. They are putting money into research. They have a specific percentage of their revenues that's going into research. And this is irrespective of the domain, right? There's chemical companies that are doing this. There's healthcare companies doing it. There's manufacturing companies doing that. So those are companies run by leaders who know that they need to put more into research, put more into new ideas, and make sure they're on top of this change cycle that's taking place, so that in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, they don't get disrupted by somebody else who now has this entire product that can totally take over their market. And there are many companies that have this formula in place. A majority of companies, though, and organizations, just battles with change. Leaders are unable to make decisions because it's too complex. There's a power struggle between leaders. There are disagreements between senior management, and there's a lot of push and pull. Markets are pushing them into a certain direction. Their consumers and customers are pulling and pushing them into certain directions. So an average CEO who's leading a multinational, a multi-million-dollar firm, their life is not easy. It's not easy. It's a challenging time. Also, the rapid change of technology, things are changing really, really fast. So you might have made a decision last year, 1 year ago, about investing in a specific technology, and you have all your use cases. The consultants have sold you on those use cases, and you've put your money down. But then today there's a new, shiny nickel. There's a new shining object that is calling you. And the example of this is 5 years ago, the greatest technology was blockchain. Everybody was talking about blockchain. Blockchain was able to do, everything. You didn't need anything. Like, it was the greatest thing people were talking about. And today, it's about generative AI. All big tech companies are vested into generative AI. The Googles, the Microsofts of the world. OpenAI is here with their Chat GPT. And it's really a very exciting time. But there's a lot of confusion because people and companies who have invested in some other technologies 5 years ago, now they're finding, oh God, is our existing investment in the right direction, or do we need to change where we are headed? Which is a great debate to have. And I'm not saying they shouldn't reanalyze what they're doing. All I'm saying is it's a time for confusion. It's confusing times because of the fast, rapid change in technology evolution in general. So a majority of companies I find are just in that process of saying, yes, we need to have this next thing, but let's scale back, but let's still do it. And that is something companies should excel in and they should work on in terms of decision making. Leaders need to find out what it is they want to chase, serve their customers the best, and then invest in those technologies that will help them accelerate their value creation in general. And then there are companies and leaders and people who just watch from the sidelines. They do not want to be the early movers. They do not want to be the pioneers. They just want to watch everybody else do this. And the next thing is, they'll adapt, but later on, they're far too aware of the risks that are out there. I hope companies are kind of in the middle segment, but pushing towards the top, pushing more towards let's take more risk. Let's, chase what is out there and implement these new technologies. But it all has to be done in a very measured and calibrated manner rather than, just jump for the next new thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because I think there's some of our listeners that are, they see articles, they watch the news. AI looks like it's here. It looks like it's already taking over jobs. It looks like it's in what you've described is, there's still a lot of questions, the value of it, how we're going to implement it. I really appreciate that. Do you have any thoughts on the potential of brain-computer interfaces? And this is around to maybe enhance some of the human cognitive abilities. We see some of that technology out there too, where there's, connections between human brains, machines, either physical or non-physical connection. What are your thoughts? And do you have any ethical concerns or considerations for this type of technology?
I think it's an area, personally, I feel it's an area that shouldn't be surprising for anybody to be able to say that, we in the future, 5 years, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, will have a brain interface that connects with something else. Now, here's what's happening. We already have cell phones that are an extended brain of ours. We are using search engines to do every kind of searching, right? We are remembering less things. For example, I still remember a decade ago, I had a map book in my hand where I would see a map of where I had to go, maybe 20 years ago. But then now we have GPSs and so on. In many ways, like, I challenge the listeners of the show to take a minute, pause this episode right here, and think about all the technology they use on a daily basis, like literally from waking up, from their alarm clock to their watch, to their Fitbit, to their alarm system at home, to the heating, cooling, conditioning of their home. Like, please analyze every single aspect of your one day and think about where you're using technology, right? Computers, Excel, Word, so on and so forth. And you will probably find that there's at least 1 to 200 things you do in your average day. And I just came up with a number. It could be more or less. I think it's more. You do those things that are related to the internet, to technology, to communication, and so on. Great, right? So once we've got that established, hopefully I'm right, then let's think about, what if all of this is gone? What will my life look like if all of this is missing? I think people, especially in modern cities, will find it hard to exist. There will be an existential crisis. People will melt down because of all the stuff that is missing, not because we're glued to TikTok or we're addicted to watching cat videos on YouTube, but because technology is everywhere. We cannot live without technology everywhere, right? In any of these places, we absolutely are dependent on technology. I remember Pedro Domingo writes in his book that if algorithms stop working, if every algorithm stops working as of right now in the world, no algorithm is running anywhere, the world as we know it is going to stop to exist. It will not exist anymore. And that's the nature of what the world is around us. Now, let's think about the next 20 years, right? Next 20 years. Technology implementation, evolution, capacity, this is exploding. This is literally exploding right now. Collection of data, generation of data, and technology permeating in our lives. This is growing beyond the fact that we are unable to understand it. And I'll tell you about OpenAI, NVIDIA in 2 minutes. So a lot is happening. Think about it after the next 20 years, how much technology will we have? I think we'll have it everywhere. It'll be our homes will be super connected. Our lives will be fully dependent on technology. At that time, if I personally have a brain interface of some kind, whether maybe it's just a helmet, a wireless helmet that I'm wearing, just like the ones they used to show in Star Wars back in the day. And it gave me these added benefits where now my brain can directly connect to the internet and I can do a Google search or whatever search in the future just by thinking about it. Then I really, really need that right now because I have so much work to do. I got new places to go, new research to do. Ask an average person how many things they have to do. Hundreds. And so that doesn't sound too bad. I think these helmets will be really great. But when we talk about drilling a hole in the head, putting a sensor in there like Neuralink or one of the companies that are doing this research right now, that sounds harsh. We don't want that. I don't want a hole in my head right now. But in the future, I will totally take the helmet that's wireless, that looks really nice. And I wouldn't mind all these added capabilities that are going to make me into a superhuman. And that's how I feel about it. I am up for that future. But then this pain of experimentation is innovation. That's what we have to go through. Coming up to these solutions is not easy. We have to go through trials and tribulations, failures and successes, and leaders, people who are doing this innovation will be criticized. They will fail, but then there's success at the end of this whole picture. And I really feel there's a lot of excitement today given all of this.
So what I hear you saying is historically, technology evolution has had these questions around, not only usage and how it's going to change, society, but questions of, is it ethical or not? And what you're saying is, of course, as technology evolves, of course, we have these questions.
Yeah. And when we talk about ethics, I think the definition of what something is ethical is really moves with the times, depending on what's going on. 100 years ago, many things would have been unethical in our society, right? Ethics are very much connected to society. In some parts of our society, globally, worldwide, things may be allowed in a country ethically, whereas in some other countries, they are not allowed ethically or morally, right? There's all these different mindsets that we have. So I think this definition of ethics is changing because, first of all, technology is leveling the playing. It's creating a very equal world. Internet connectivity and being able to check email in New York means the same thing in Nepal, right? It's checking your email. There's nothing different about it. So technology is leveling the playing by creating this equal world where we all are now accessing technology in the same way. We're doing the same things. But yeah, there's moral things, ethical things, there's religion, there's people's faith, and all of these things that always come up and challenge the status quo and tell us that, hey, maybe this is the wrong thing to do. In my opinion, the definition of ethics keeps on changing. But if we agree that let's stay on the good side of humanity, be good people, good ethically people, so that you can say, yeah, you're an ethical person. I think we still need to maintain that despite the fact that technology is changing our lives. And will brain interfaces, are they unethical? I don't think so. I really don't think so, because it really depends on what you're doing with them, how they're being used. This is post research phase, post implementation phase, and many people may disagree with this statement. So, as of today, right now, again, 2024, many things we do with the internet are acceptable, but they were not acceptable 20 years ago. Similarly, 20 years from now, many things would have changed, and we will be doing things differently. And so those boundaries would have moved.
So you talked about leveling up across the world, across communities. Do you think that these technologies, diagnostic technologies using AI and machine learning, or technologies that connect the brain so that we can understand the brain and understand its diseases, will this level up across healthcare, health for populations across the world?
Unfortunately, no, it will not, because there's a gap. And that gap is in the world not being an equal place in every country, in every city, right? You've got different challenges across the world. For example, you have poverty, you have homelessness, you have underfunded governments, you have corrupt governments, you have war, civil unrest, like many, many different things are happening in the world that's the state of our society today. It's directly now connected with how successful companies are in these countries that are really doing great. If you talk about America, you talk about the UK, France, first world countries, I think they'll all benefit, because that's where the research is happening. That's where funding is available. That's where research can be conducted without any red tape. And we can accelerate this process of finding the next best cure, putting money into research, and so on. But it will not happen at the same scale where there's underfunded communities, there's no basic healthcare. And so we really have to think about what's going on in which country. I really hope the world was a better place. But what can also happen, and this brings me to the idea of proximity, what can happen is that this change in one part of the world, where now technology proves that these solutions, these healthcare cures are now available. Thanks to technology, we've found out what these cures are. The process of deploying those cures in some other places in parts of the world where the countries or regions are not that affluent can now become much more easier, because there are ideas such as, which I mentioned, proximity manufacturing is coming through. This happened during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, where vaccines were being manufactured on site in some countries, and they were being administered to people literally the next day. This idea also comes through when you talk about drug manufacturing and so on. So I feel, even though the big research might be in some stable countries or places where there's ample availability of resource, funding, and so on, we should not lose hope, because to deploy those solutions, there are things happening that are exciting. And hopefully in the next 10, 15, 20 years, there will be more of those things happening. It'll be easier to manufacture those drugs that took 5 years to figure out. They can now be made in 1 minute or an hour or whatever it is. So I'm very positive that that technology will have a tremendous amount of impact on not just research, not just finding the formulas or the procedures or the ideas that'll fuel the human being of the future, but it'll also be easy. It'll also help us find the path to implement those solutions much faster than we are able to do it right now, and to provide those services to people, wherever they are.
Yeah, I think that's a really important kind of perspective, especially on research. Researchers, they tend to reside in academics situations, institutions. They do their research, but that idea of getting it to the commercial market or to the end state, to the patient, sometimes is not in their forefront of their thinking. If there was, and this is probably not your line here about making researchers future ready, but thinking about these researchers that are creating the research, what could they do to make themselves more future ready with the technology and the science that they're developing?
The lives of researchers are very hard. And I really value this because they spend a lot of time looking at the minutest details, repeating, tests or certain protocols hundreds and thousands of times, and then finally coming up with something that potentially could be a possibility, that possibly could be one of the solutions to a problem, right? And maybe it's not because something didn't work out. It's really painful to see that 15, 20 years ago, that it was a very manual process collecting the data associated with research, and being able to catalog the data, find out what's going on. But now, thanks to technology, data collection technologies, whether it's, doing an iris scan with an iPhone or a camera like that, or being able to take data remotely, or being able to do QR, like there are so many ways of collecting data now. But let's say field data collection has become much more easy when it comes to technology, so we have to accept that. The second part is processing that information. Like that is even faster now, with thanks to AI, thanks to all of these algorithmic technologies, faster processing speeds. That is really, really, really fast. And so what should researchers think about when we think about future readiness? I think they just need to chase and push towards faster results using and leveraging technology. The primary job of researchers is not to create a supercomputer, right? In the field of, let's say, healthcare. They want to find the next healthcare solution. Give me the tools and I will find it. That's what they're saying. And I think what they should push for with their stakeholders, with their funding organizations, is for the better ability to find solutions faster, whether it's finding the new supercomputers, more compute speed, more technology where they can accelerate these results. I think they should push for more and faster implementations or faster speeds when doing that. That will really change the time it takes to do anything. And time is what you have on your hand or what you can save. That is one side of future readiness. Number two, I would also love for researchers to have a broader view of the world and understand how is the entire world changing because of emergence of technology. Have a view on how are different things shaping, and maybe it can change their perspective on things and help them do research better. And what's the impact of these things on people, processes, ideas, and so on. So there's a few different angles that they can pursue. I really feel if you have a broader perspective today, you can make better decisions. You will have better judgments, and that may just accelerate that process, those journeys these researchers are on in general, or the research community is in general.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I agree with that. Notoriously, the healthcare industry is very much around privacy, around security, a lot of HIPAA rules, a lot of, concerned about where the data comes from if you are studying the brain or the patient. What, any kind of thoughts on how privacy and security will change, especially when it comes to health and healthcare? Will this loosen up? Or will we learn how to protect the information in such a way that we can use it in that very rapid fashion?
I love that question because privacy is such a big thing. Now, in the past, 50 years ago, everything was manual. We had certain information about individuals and people that was available. Great. Then came the internet. Now everything is online. Data is being collected online. Patient information is online. You can access your results and so on online. Everything is great. What is our relationship with our personal information? What part of our personal information are we afraid to disclose or protect, or what should we do? Think about social media, right? There are many people who are on social media and they will share every detail about themselves on social media. And there are some people, and I still remember in the early days of the internet, many people that I knew were afraid to log into their bank account online because they felt this was something weird, this was different, this was not right. And I would hear things like, no, I don't want to log on online because I don't think it's safe and secure. But I think there's hardly anybody today who doesn't have access to the internet and they're not using online banking and now on apps. So, and we're okay to put our credit card number in there. We're okay to put our SIM card number in there. So our relationship with data is changing. We are not so protective with information as we were 25, 30, 40 years ago. That relationship is much looser now. And I think going forward into the future, that a lot of that relationship might just become more looser and we might not be so overprotective. And this is my opinion. We might not be so overprotective about our personal information because we would know that somehow it is protected. Either it's better security protocols, the ability for somebody to do nothing with the information that they have, or in case of our good friend blockchain technology, if it comes in and if it gets enabled and if it's implemented everywhere, well, then nobody can hack anything. Nobody can hack anything. Nobody can have access to any form of data. So within that future, it's either technology that's becoming the savior and it's helping us lock down information so nicely that we're not afraid of it leaking out, or we're losing that relationship with some parts of our information. We're okay with letting it go. I also feel that in the future we might have just one number associated with us, more like it's not the social security number, but maybe some other number that technologists will create that'll give you access to everything, whether if you're going for a mortgage, the bank will know exactly what mortgage to give you based on that specific identifier because now it's connected to everything in your life and they don't need any documentation, they don't need any papers. In the healthcare industry, maybe that one single number will be connected to everything happening in your health history and they would know with a snapshot exactly where you are at. Right now, many systems across the world, across the United States, they are not connected. They are not super connected. If you do tests somewhere, they're not available somewhere else. So there's this whole efficiency challenge that the industry needs to kind of come out of, and things need to be more connected. I think it's taking time because it's a massive undertaking. Many smaller countries, though, are there. Countries such as the UAE, Estonia, Singapore, much tighter, better integrated healthcare systems than some other places. But I think it's just one of those things that will happen one day.
Yeah, I think maybe it's not the information that we protect, but it's the actions that come from that information. If somebody has this information, can they stop me from getting a job or stop me from, getting a loan or whatever that may be? And so I think you bring up some really interesting points there. You talked about for researchers that your hope was that they'd have bigger picture of the world and the world around them. What in your line of work, how important is collaborations or interdisciplinary communications or working relationships? Do you where does that reside in importance?
Of course. So within my work in the theory of future readiness, there are 7 principal areas. First one being engagement and connecting, communication. We have learning, we have collaboration, execution, culture, and innovation. And collaboration is a key pillar of organizations wanting to be future readiness or that are not, becoming future ready. I really believe very strongly that if organizations are not working on even internal as well as external collaboration, there's different multiple types of collaboration, it's going to be very hard to succeed at doing what you do. And an organization can't do everything on its own. You have to collaborate, even it may be with a competitor at some point. But if you're not collaborating, you're leaving a lot on the table. you're not working to your maximum potential. So no, I'm all for collaboration. And if you're not looking at working with others, you're not doing the right thing. You're not going to succeed as you think you will. It's going to be a really hard grind, and you wouldn't know what's happening.
So, Ian, you said you're a storyteller, and you've been the storyteller for many, many years, and you use different mediums to to tell stories. What are the stories that you are telling about healthcare and the changes of healthcare, or what stories do you hope to tell about the changes that are happening in healthcare?
Many. So I'll talk about the series, The Futurist. In one of our episodes, we featured a company that's doing artificial intelligence and drug discovery. They are finding new cures by creating these really tiny organs. They have cells specifically derived from specific organs, and they're testing those using AI, using a massive amount of data to do that testing, so that lab rat model is gone. There's no need for lab rats anymore, because now you can just accelerate this testing process. You do not need mice. That really changes everything, how drugs are created, how fast they can be created. So that was our episode number one. We are also focusing on the topic of longevity in one of our episodes, and talking about what will it take for humanity to live longer, whether it's, extending lifetime by 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 years. What does that mean, and how can we get there? There are many different sciences out there. The gut microbiome revolution is happening, and many companies are saying that's the holy grail of longevity, because the gut is the second brain. I'm really interested in understanding that and finding out, is it really the second brain? So that we are exploring. There's also a whole revolution of new drugs, and I can't remember the exact specific names, but that work on mitochondria, that work on specific cells of your body to rejuvenate them, and to, with these customized supplementations that can change the way you live every day. There's lots happening there. I want to find out what's going on and bring it to our viewers. So that's a story angle that we're chasing for our future episodes. These are kind of the main ones. AI is going to be a very prominent topic for us, because a lot is happening with that. But then we're also going into the side of, forget AI, forget technology. What will it take for humanity to live longer? Not just longer, but healthier and longer. So I'm excited for the future of healthcare and where we can go, and some of the things that we are personally looking into bringing to our viewers.
Yeah, that's great. I really like the focus on longevity. I've said this before in the podcast that we delve into a lot of the neurological diseases like Alzheimer's or dementia, and there's a sometimes people just say, well, that's just the aging process. It's inevitable, and I really wonder if it has to be inevitable. Is it that something's happening to us to result in Alzheimer's, or is it our behavior? And are there things that we're doing as part of the aging process that may contribute to these kind of diseases? If we behave differently as we aged, could we stop some of these diseases, or not have them, manifest in the way that they are? So super curious about that. And, our relationship to aging has to, I think, change. We have these super agers that are running, marathons at the age of 95, or getting college degrees at the age of 100. It's just really fascinating, and I'm glad that's one of the things that you're delving into, which really kind of impacts what we do here too at the for the trust. So. As we kind of wrap up here, what is your greatest hope for the future? What is it that you're you have a lot of passion, a lot of excitement about things, but what is your greatest hope for the future?
Well, amongst many things, I think if I had to sum it all up into just one kind of nice sentence, it would be that I hope that we are able to coexist peacefully across the world, and we can eliminate poverty, hunger, disease, all these things that shouldn't exist. And we can just live a beautiful life no matter which country or place you live in, and that humanity really does what it needs to do to keep the planet safe, to keep it healthy, and take care of each other. I think that's really important because it's not going to be easy living on your own because people thrive when they live together and support each other. So I really feel the world needs to be a better place, and I'm sure it will be. We just need to keep on pushing it to the right direction.
Yeah, and I like how that hope coexists with your view of technology and technology evolution. That technology can help us achieve that. So I really, I really appreciate you sharing that. How do people get in contact with you if they're interested in what you do or they want to learn more? How do they reach out?
Of course. Well, visit my website, iankahn.com, iankhan.com, or shoot me an email, ian@iankahn.com, ian@iankhan.com, or find me on social media. I'm right there somewhere.
Ian, thank you so much for the time today. Every time we chat, I walk away energized, excited. The world's not as scary after listening to you. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Deb. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining Research Renaissance. For more information and to stay updated, subscribe for more episodes and visit our website at tofflertrust.org. Feel free to call us if you have any thoughts, suggestions, or just want to find out more about the Karen Toffler Charitable Trust. Until we meet again, onward and upward.